survive an hour without a mobile phone. Okay, thank you very much for that. And without too much further ado, we start our session with the first speaker, Facundo Rojo from Argentina. We had a wonderful conversation the last days. Facundo is representing the Willow group. Willow is a company well known in Germany, producing quality pumps, but he will tell you more about that. But the Willow group is connected to the Willow Foundation. And the Willow Foundation is a wonderful cooperation partner of Global Nature Fund for many years now. We have very efficient and very successful projects together in Colombia, in Jordan, in Cambodia, in a number of countries, and we have received together a number of environmental awards for those projects. So it's really a very efficient and fruitful partnership, and I'm so happy that you made it and that you joined us here. So, Facu, this is your floor.
Okay, thank you Udo, for your words. First of all, I would like to say thank you for Living Lakes for this invitation. It is really my first time here. I am really delighted by my experience here. Second, I want to also say thank you to ART for arranging and organizing the trip that we did yesterday. It was really very emotional. Me as a Latin American guy, it was really fantastic to know more about Lago Titicaca. And thank you very much, Global Nature Funds, for this organization and for inviting me for this conference. As Udo was presented, the Willow Group is a world-leading pump manufacturer in the world. We have presence in almost all of the countries in the world. We have presence in Africa, of course, in Latin America, in US and Canada. We have presence in Europe, of course. We have presence in Asia. So perhaps we can work together with your offices in your own country through the local offices from Willow. We are 8,000 people worldwide, so we are a big company. So as we were saying, the Willow Group is mainly producing pumps and pump systems. So we are producing pumps for different applications like building services or water management and industry. Related to these conferences, I think that borehole pumps for irrigation or pumps for wastewater treatment plants are the most interesting pumps for you. But we are producing pumps for all the applications. As a company, we see, as we have already talked about this in this conference, we are seeing a lot of megatrends that are, at least we are aware of that and we are concerned about it. First of all, it is the globalization, but the urbanization, the energy shortage, the water shortage, it is something that we are really very aware of. And of course, the climate change that we also see together yesterday, that the level of the lakes are decreasing. So we are seeing face to face the problems that the climate change is making in our environment. But we are not, at least I would like to think that we are not another company. We are doing businesses, but we also have like a sustainability strategy. That means that we are very committed to help people to facilitate water to 100 million of people. That is at least our goal in the future. But of course, we are committed to reduce the energy and emissions and the material and wastewater and the waste that we are leaving to the environment. So we want to reduce that. And last but not least, we are very, very aware, and we have like an act of responsibility towards the employees and the society where we work in. It is important for me. I am it is a very important feature that in 2018 our company signed an agreement with the United Nations in terms of try to work together in order to face the challenges that we have mentioned before as megatrends. So the United Nations defined 17 sustainable development goals, and I think that 7 of that goals are very relevant, and we can do something about it from the Willow perspective. So as I told you, the Willow Group is owned by the Willow Foundation. The Willow Foundation is a family-run foundation. So we are not only committed on making profits, it is not the only goal here, but also to try to share these profits for the common good, for the communities. And on that respect, I think that the Willow Foundation is making some very interesting, providing financing to different projects, mainly in the aspect of science, education and welfare, culture and sports. And also, we are working together in a partnership with the Global Nature Funds for so many years, and as we have already said, we have a very strict relationship with them. One of the reasons that we are working together is because we understand that the Global Nature Funds have strong knowledge and experience in the environmental and water topics. So we are working very hard with them. And on the other side, we are also we trust that they have reliable local partner organizations. And for me, personally, it's the most key success factor that we are having working together. In that direction, I would like to invite to this stage Fundación Humedales in order to can discuss with you, to share with you some project that we have made together. So Felipe, if you can come to the stage, please. It is important to show you what we are doing with Fundación Humedales.
Thank you, Facundo. And yes, our team, we developed a couple of projects with funds from Willow. The first one, the picture in the top, it's 2 communitary aqueducts that we helped to conformate, and we implemented infrastructure that now runs only on alternative energies for the supply of water for human consumption of around 800 inhabitants. In the picture in the bottom, it's a green filter, a constructed wetland with superficial flow that was built in the center of Colombia and provides treatment or wastewater treatment for a small town of 400 inhabitants. And there's a third one that it's not there. It's the installation of a purification plant in a small village, also in the center of Colombia, with German technology, and all the funds were provided by Willow.
Thank you, Felipe. We would like to replicate this kind of projects in Latin America, but also in other parts of the world. So thank you very much, Fundación Humedales, for this hard work. I'm going to hurry up. You know that we are producing water pumps, so we are very aware of the water consumption. But in this case, I want to tell you that I am also concerned that 10% of the population of the worldwide cannot access to safety water. So it is a challenge that we have in the world. And I want to provide you a video that it is very straightforward and it's very self-explanatory. What can we provide about that? We are going to show you a video where we convert raw water into safe water. Please, can we share the video, please?
This is Paul, and now we'll see how it works. I'm standing here with the head of research and development, José Ordóñez. How does the technology behind it work?
We have here the Paul, the water backpack. Inside the Paul there is a membrane module with 51 plates. On each plate there is membrane material welded. The membrane material has a pore size of 35 nanometers, which gives us the possibility to remove pathogens like bacteria, protozoals, and virus. When we put here raw water from a lake or a river, we get out from Paul clean, safe water for the people.
Can you show us how to use the backpack?
Paul works by gravity. You pour the raw water on the sieve, fill it up, and then you get clean water by opening the valve.
Very interesting conversations with some African colleagues in this conference. And of course, they are farmers. They are producing different crops in Africa. And for me personally, it is very important to find a way to share the technology that we are using, like, for example, solar-driven pumps, to also give to these farmers in order to do the irrigation in a different way. You know that I am very limited in time, but 70% of the water in the world, it is used for irrigation. But the irrigation for only 20% of the land. And this 20% of the land that it is irrigated using very old efficient methods that are really very inefficient. So there is a lot of room of improvement if we can start thinking different ways of irrigation, of course, much more efficient. And for doing that, we need a lot of pumps. So we are here in that regard to help you and support you on that direction. So thank you very much for the time. And I know that you are very close to a lot of communities that they are in need. So I will be delightful to be like a link between the projects and the Willow Foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Facundo, for that very concise and very interesting insight into the structure, the work, the ambition, and the expertise of the Willow Group and the Willow Foundation. I'm sure you will have a lot of questions. Keep them. And that constellation of a foundation owning a company is quite interesting. And I'm sure you will also have some questions on the water expertise. So we head on with the next presentation, going to Vanessa Sanchez from the Fundación Global Nature in Spain. If I'm not mistaken, we met 2 decades ago. Vanessa, I think at the Ramsar conference in Valencia. And Vanessa was already bright and clever, and I wasn't without hair at that time, so it was a little different 20 years ago. Vanessa is an environmental scientist working for the Fundación Global Nature, and you will be speaking about the Wetlands for Climate project. That is an EU LIFE project, so it's supported by the European Commission through the funding scheme LIFE. And the focus, and I find that very interesting, and I'm sure you will have a lot of questions, is on the carbon sequestration potential of wetlands and the important value of wetlands in terms of climate change mitigation, but in particular on the funding aspect that is called the PES, the Payment for Ecosystem Services. So I'm curious to hear your presentation. This is your floor.
Thank you, Willow. Thank you to ALT for inviting us to this event. It has been wonderful. And thank you, of course, to GNF to organize this wonderful conference. Oh, I'm gonna ask you, apologize from the beginning because I'm still, since I arrived here, I have a sick disease from the altitude and I think very slowly. But anyway, I will try to do my best. And then, as I can imagine, it's now siesta time. And some of you are waiting for siesta, and I guess other ones are waiting for the party of tonight, so it's not the best time to speak, but anyway, we'll go. Well, I would like to introduce this project. It's Mediterranean Wetlands Management and Restoration as Carbon Sinks. And we, Fundación Global Nature, are the coordinators of the project, but of course we have different partners. And maybe the most important one is the University of Valencia. And I have to tell you that this project was born in an Living Lakes conference, where one researcher introduced us this carbon sink function of the wetlands, and we decided, well, Amanda Del Rio and Antonio Guillem decided to write this project. And it began in October 2020. We will try to end in June 2024. And the main objective is to establish management guidelines for Mediterranean wetlands. So they function as carbon sinks, but at the same time, they must maintain the ecological integrity. And that's very important. And then must provide ecosystem services of a healthy ecosystem. So we are designing an experimental protocol in different pilot wetlands, and we are implementing management actions for vegetation, soil, and water restoration actions on these pilot wetlands, and measuring what's going on with the carbon balance in those actions. Of course, we will transfer results as we are doing now here, and we will try to involve the private sector. Just very brief, the process, step by step. First of all, we selected the wetlands at the beginning of the project with different authorities. In Spain, we work together very close to the different authorities, regional, local, and national, and European too. Second step was the field actions, development, and measurements. We are developing a protocol for verification and transfer, and of course communication. So where are the wetlands we are working? We selected 10 pilot wetlands, and what we were looking for together with our university partner is to have different kind of wetlands, like inland freshwater wetlands in one region in the north of Spain, saline inland wetlands in another region, Castilla-La Mancha, and coastal wetlands in the coastal region of Community of Valencia. So there we're working in different pilot wetlands, and they have different states of conservation too. I mean, some of them are very alterated, and others are in a good status of conservation, and that's important to have the results of the project. And what we are doing, we work at 2 scales. So the team of Global Nature are developing the management action at a big scale, in a scale of hectares. So we do implement management actions of soil, something like removal of the soil, stripping is the name of in English, I don't know, decapados in Spanish, because maybe the translator doesn't know what it means, stripping, decapados and fangeos. We manage vegetation too, and in vegetation we are testing correct grazing and livestock management of the elophytes, mowing of the elophytes with different techniques. You can see there is a machine of an amphibious machine that goes through the water, mowing elophytes. And of course we are planting macrophytes too. And then we are measuring too some water management actions that could be such as rewetting and measuring what's going on in a gradient of different humidity of the soil. And then at an experimental level, our partner, the University of Valencia, is characterizing all the carbon cycle. And for that, they are measuring wherever you can imagine that happens into the water, in the 10 pilot wetlands. And the more innovative thing of the project is maybe that they already have the baseline on regarding the carbon balance of these pilot wetlands. They know which is the carbon cycle in the wetland, but now they are measuring what's going on by the result of every management action we are implementing. And they measure primary production of benthos and plankton, they measure phytoplankton, they measure methanogenesis and methanatrophy, and they measure too what's going on about all the prokaryote bacteria into the water. So they make like a black box and measure all of that to see what's going on with the carbon balance. We are trying to develop a voluntary carbon standard, a methodology. We first tried to do it with an international standard, BERRA, maybe you know it, but then we realized it was really expensive, not only to get approved the methodology, that we had the funds for it, but even if you are going to present a project for it, it's very expensive to get certified, verified, and all of that. So in Spain, our wetlands are really small. That will be like a pond for you compared to the Titicaca Lake. So we don't have the dimension enough to go to this kind of standards. So we decided to go to work together with our Ministry of Transition Ecology, a national ministry, and we are developing a methodology with them, meeting together with them, because they have a voluntary carbon standard for projects of absorption of CO2, and until now they have been only working with forests, but they want to develop a methodology for wetlands, and that's a very good news for us. Of course, we are transferring the results here now with Living Lakes Network, but with other networks too, such as MedWet, Ramsar, and so on. And we are doing communication in all the 10 pilot wetlands regarding the function of wetlands and climate change. And we made an exhibition, and we have done around 500 workshops for environmental education, arriving to 15,000 scholars and adults, and making different processes to involve the population. And I guess you were waiting for this since all the time, and I began to talk about my project, but some figures. Why? And I guess Hector will go in depth of this, so I'm much better than me for sure, because I'm not the expert, just the coordinator of the project. But you can see here what happens and why wetlands are very important, and we all should be aware of this. And until now, in the carbon markets, forests are the most famous ecosystems. But as you see this, in the bar of the ice, I don't know, the axis bar, is the total organic carbon density in tons of CO2 per hectare. And the green bar is the carbon that can be stored in the biomass. But the most important is that the blue bars is the soil organic carbon in 1 meter of depth of soil. And if you see the size of the bars, you can see that wetlands, for instance, peatlands, mangroves, shoal marshes, or all seagrasses, have much more carbon stored than any other ecosystem. When we talk about Mediterranean wetlands in terms of carbon sequestration, we must know too that wetlands, and mainly peatlands, have the highest carbon stock, the stock into the soil of the world. But that's there, and we have to preserve that. But if we look at other kind of wetlands where are younger, and the sediments are younger, the carbon and the rate of sequestration of carbon is much higher than any other peatland. We have some numbers there. For instance, Mediterranean Spanish coast, the carbon storage is 950 grams of carbon per square meter and per year, and that compared to peatlands where on average is around 26.6 grams, is many times bigger. So we have to see that this kind of wetlands can sequester a lot of carbon. And just some lessons, because I have to stop. when we are restoring a wetland, the most important thing must be to restore biodiversity, not as a carbon sink, but biodiversity, because sometimes that can be not the same, that can be confronted. It's important to know all the factors that must affect the success of the restoration for carbon benefits. And we should, it must be considered the state of the ecosystem when we are trying to promote a restoration project, because, and this is very, very, very important, if a wetland is in a good state, then it will be fixing carbon. But if a wetland is altered, and then there is hydromorphological alterations, water pollution, eutrophication, and so on, it's not only that it's not gonna fix carbon, but it's gonna emit other greenhouse gases as methane that are much powerful, then the wetland will be emitting. So that's a very important message for our policymakers, that we have to restore our wetlands to get that they are carbon sinks. And for sure, you must know that wetland management measures can influence the carbon balance, being able to strengthen the carbon retention capacity, and that's very important for it. So that's it. Thank you very much. I hope you can enjoy.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Wonderful and very solid figures that you gave. It takes some time to digest them and fully understand them, but the message is clear. Wetlands are very important for climate change, for fighting climate change. They are destroyed 3 times faster than tropical forest, but they sequester much more carbon. And as Vanessa said, it's not only about CO2, but also other greenhouse gases, such as laughing gas, for instance, or methane, being, of course, very relevant greenhouse gases. And I want to give you one figure. Germany has destroyed 92% of its wetlands and peatlands for agricultural purposes, almost exclusively, drained for agricultural purposes. Those areas form 7% of the arable land of Germany, and they are responsible for 99% of the greenhouse gas emissions of Germany from agricultural land without livestock. And that illustrates how important wetlands and peatlands are. Thank you very much, Vanessa. And a very similar topic, but a little bit a different perspective, a more academic perspective. We have Dr. Hector Aponte with us from the University of Lima, a water scientist, as I have learned, with a PhD in biology. And you will be speaking about your research on ecosystem services along I think the whole Pacific coast of Latin America, or almost, but you will tell us. Yes. So thank you very much. This is your floor, Hector.
Okay. So, today I'm here to tell you a story. And I'm going to do this presentation in English, but the slides are in Spanish. So as I told you, I'm here to tell you a story because as a scientist, we are always doing these puzzles. So how do you start to put together a puzzle? Some of us will start with the corner. Others will put together all the pieces of the same color. I don't know. So we decided to put together this puzzle of carbon cycle. And in Lima, we have a very important ecosystem called Pantanos de Villa. So I asked of one of my students to give to the laboratory a plant, lenteja de agua, lemna, but instead of that, he gave me this plant. It's not lemna. He gave me Limnobium levigatum. So it was something like a mistake, but but it was a very interesting plant because I could do many laboratory manipulations. So I decided to start this puzzle of carbon cycle, measuring how much carbon can this species, just one plant can stock on laboratory conditions. And as you can see, this plant can store 1.79 tons per hectare per year of carbon in laboratory conditions. So that was one of our first pieces. And then something happened. What happened? A big fire. Fires are not strange in Lima. Actually, it happens all the time, and it happens in wetlands. These fires are not natural, as fires we saw yesterday in Lake Titicaca. Maybe you saw some fires. So this happens next to our university. This is Pantanos de Villa. So we decided to go to measure what happened, how much biomass was lost during this fire, and try to model how much carbon emissions were lost during that fire. So after all the manipulation and mathematics, we had this conclusion. It was lose 1,397.1 tons of CO2, just in one fire. Fires, as I told you, happens all the time. This quantity is around 200 tons per hectare. So imagine how much CO2 is emitted during fires on whole wetlands around the world. Next, we decided to measure how much carbon this ecosystem was stocking or storing for us. Because we start with a plant, next we did the fire, so why not measuring the whole wetland, Pantanos de Villa? So we decided to model the whole biomass in this site. We decided to do measures in soil. Also, as you can see, soil is a very important piece in this puzzle. So we needed to measure the soil, and after all that chemical things, we got the conclusion that Pantanos de Villa stock 80,000 tons of CO2. I think that looks a lot in numbers. 18,000 too much. How much is all these numbers? So just to get a visual thing, these 80,000 tons of CO2 are equivalent at 12,000 swimming pools, Olympic swimming pools, just to be clear, of CO2. So imagine, this is just one wetland. So imagine how much carbon are storing whole wetlands around the world. And well, we continue having these pieces. This is a photo of the team. Here we are biologists, communication guys, also engineers. We decided to continue, and well, we knew the plant, then the fire, then the whole ecosystem. Why don't measuring every ecosystem in Peru? Why don't? Okay, so we tried to do that, and we got this found from Concitec, and we decided to determine carbon fluxes in all wetlands, well, all different kinds of wetlands in Peru. So we had this objective, this is the main objective, what I told you, to have this information for policymakers. So we measured wetlands in the coast, in the north, mangroves, then we measured in highlands, then in the forest. So we have different measures. So after going, and well, in this kind of research, we needed different kinds of methods. In this case, it was sedimentology. This is Alexander Perez, that is one of the main researchers in this research. He's the how do you say it in English? Is the head researcher. Yes, I am another researcher in the same team. And there is Mathieu Carré, which is French, that is part also of the team. Here we have other equipments like this Russian sampler to take the samples. Here we went in Cusco at 5,000 meters, so imagine our headaches. Thank you. And at the end of whole samplings, we had this. So there are wetlands that are storing for us from around 100 and 115 grams of CO2 per meter per year. And then we have others, like the one in Ayacucho, for example, that is having from 615 to 1,500 grams per CO2 per meters per year. And so, as you can see, all wetlands doesn't behave at the same way. We have different fluxes of CO2 storing for us. And this is very important because, for example, here in Pantanos de Villa, it means that the flux of everything that is happening around is going to the wetland, and also nitrogen, for example, is going to the wetland, and the wetland is storing that for us. And these values are sometimes the double that we knew for hotel coastal wetlands. So it is amazing. And to be more scientific things, here we used stable isotopes. These things tell us where was the origin of the carbon and of the nitrogen. So in the center, there was a specific period of time in Pantanos de Villa that the fluxes were bigger. And this happened specifically when urbanization grows. So it means that as the urbanization grows, it generates more contaminants. And the wetland was taking that for us. So, to be clear, here we are. This is Lima, this is Pantanos de Villa, and Pantanos de Villa are our kidneys. These are giving us a better place to live. And next, we are going to have other measures in Cusco, in Puno. We have also sediment samples here in Lago Titicaca. In Titicaca, we are going to have those results very, very soon. We have more information also in Apurímac, in Ayacucho, and I hope to give you that information very soon. We have continued with this other project in which we are going to continue analyzing the samples. So our puzzle is start to having pieces, those pieces that says, okay, your things we know, the order that have the question marks, it means that we don't know. So I hope that in the next years we are going to have more information to continue putting together all these pieces in this puzzle. So why do we need all this data? Because I need you, I need economists, I need policymakers to use this information. This is not new. We already know that you need this information, for example, for mechanisms of compensation for ecosystem services. So we already know. Now we have the data. So we need you to use this information to get people paid, to get communities paid. So I'm very glad to be here sharing all that with you because I need you. Please help me. We have this information right now, so please make this real. And all this happened in the middle of a big initiative called Humedales Costeros. This initiative is composed with a lot of academic and not academic institutions that are in the coast of Peru, Ecuador, and Chile. So we are trying to do this. We are not only carbon, but also movements for education, awareness to people, to do possible what living lakes want. Yeah? That is happening right now. So maybe the next piece of a puzzle would be how much carbon is stored in the whole coast of the Pacific. Why not? So thank you very much. That was what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you very much, Hector. Impressive insights into your work. Facundo from the private sector, Vanessa, civil society, Hector from the scientific world. 3 different sectors of society, but the hearts beating for the same, for water and the environment. And I'm sure you have a lot of questions. If I would point out my questions, we will miss the evening party, so I better don't start. I'll probably have one at the very end. I would like to thank you before we go into the Q&A for joining us here, for giving your wonderful presentation, for being concise and punctual, because that allows us to go into the question and answer. And last but not least, for speaking in a foreign language, because your mother tongue, of course, is Spanish. The advantage of that is you can ask the question in Spanish or in English, and of course, you can answer in both languages. So please, hands up. Once again, identify yourself, name, country, and please be brief and concise. Thank you.
Ajunta De, India. I have a question to you that whether you have worked on desalinization of water for the coastal region?
That question is going to whom?
To Willow Foundation.
Okay.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Desalinization of water for the coastal regions. Have you worked on that?
Yes, of course. I don't know how to say that in English, but it is inversal or reversal osmosis. Is this correct? So, reverse.
Reverse osmosis. It's the same word in
So
English.
we are using pumps for that process, and of course we can provide you with pumps to to reach this very high pressure that we need for these kind of processes. So it is possible. Actually, in India, for example, Willow India office, it is very capable of doing this kind of system. So please, you have, perhaps we can talk afterwards, and I can put you in contact with our offices in India.
Thank you, Ajanta, for the question, and thank you, Facunda, for the fast and precise answer. And we have a new bilateral collection already. This is what we are here for. Some more questions, I'm sure. Please, hands up. Don't be shy. Marion is never shy. Please go ahead.
Yes, my question goes to Facunda, but also to the other two participants, because we are on restoration of wetlands, and restoration of wetlands requires a lot of financing, and we are depending on public funding, etc., which never is enough. No? And Facunda, you or the business world in general is looking for CO2 neutrality, also to be CO2 neutral, and therefore very often the business world is looking for offsetting programs, etc., to compensate the remaining emissions which cannot be avoided or reduced. No? So my question is, could this be a future way of financing restoration of wetlands if we would have a sound methodology to measure the CO2 sequestration? And do you think, Facunda, that the business world would be interested in then having offsetting projects on restoration of wetlands?
Yeah, it is a very good question. I think that from a perspective of the Willow Foundation, the answer is completely yes. Of course, there are some processes that are needed to allow this kind of funds to finance these kind of projects. But without any doubt, I have seen some projects, very interesting projects in other parts of the world that the Willow Foundation put the money without asking so many questions about it. So for sure, the Willow Foundation is committed to help. That's why we are here in this conference, yes. So my answer is completely yes, it is possible. I don't know if the other guys want to.
Yeah, I completely agree with Facundo, and I would like to let you know that since we began to work in this project, many private companies have came to us to ask about the results and methodology. And we have to say, wait a minute, I don't have still the results. I don't have that the scientists are working, and we will have the scientific information at the end of the next year, so you have to wait. But yes, I encourage you to work in your wetlands to develop methodologies, because researchers have already the information. You can see they have it for Peru at least. So now if you work on the other side, on the methodologies and how the restoration of wetlands can be improved, and which is the carbon sink of the management actions you can do in your wetlands, I'm sure that many companies are interested to finance that. This is well done. And it's that there is a new opportunity to finance restoration, and you have to explore it, because it's not easy. And maybe Hector has much information to add that on that is not easy, because I'm seeing the research team of the University of Valencia working very hard. There are like around 19 guys making plots and samples in pilot wetlands and going on and measuring everything to have the data. So maybe you want to add something?
I want to add that if you put the money, I'm in. So I think it's a very, very good opportunity to work together within university, between the industry. So it is very important. And I just want to point that when we talk about restoration, it is important to consider that restoration means to going back on time. So we need a point of the beginning. a beginning point to do a correct restoration. So to know that the academic piece is very important. This morning we listened to Victor, I think. He for example, explained to us that they have different standards for different wetlands. So that is very, very important to do a correct restoration, and it's a very important point to take in consideration.
Thank you very much. Carbon neutrality is an important aspect of the business sector of companies. We all know that the carbon offset is also an ambivalent topic. So if it means business as usual and we offset our fossil fuel damage somewhere in the developing world, either in reforestation or restoration of wetlands, this will not be the solution for the future. And nobody knows it better that carbon offset is only one piece or one side of the coin, and the other one is carbon inset. And Marion is the one always pointing the finger or putting the finger into the wound that companies have to consider the carbon insetting. That means looking at their supply chains and not saying we continue with business as usual and then we offset somewhere difficult to control. But as I said, if you want to know more about carbon insetting, this is the person to go to. So we have time for one more question, and we have time for 2 or 3 more questions. And there is another hand here in the second front row.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm Kaganga John from Uganda, and I'm from civil society, and I'm also a farmer. The first question is from the Willow Group or Willow Foundation. I would like to know whether you work in Uganda, because I am not aware, I have never heard of you working in Uganda, but you might be there, because I can't know anything, whatever is taking place in Uganda. And then 2, if you are not working in Uganda, how can we try to extend, how can you extend, or how can we get marriage so that you also work in Uganda, because the work you are doing is really very, very good. And now irrigation is the way to go if we are to fight climate change, especially the smallholder farmers. 2, we'll be going to the one who, I think it is Vanessa, talked about carbon, isn't it? Yeah, carbon. I have been in a civil society organization since 1999, and we have been planting trees. We have planted trees millions now and millions. But our people are not benefiting. We want to make sure that you people try to either to connect us to other, because as the academia said, you have to start somewhere. You can either connect to us, or you yourself come to our area, because there is a lot of carbon in the soil, in the forest, in the trees, so that our farmers can also benefit. That's what I wanted to ask.
Thank you, John. We start then with your question about the presence of Willow Group in East Africa and Uganda.
Thank you for the question. Yes, totally, we are present in Uganda. If we don't have an office, we have representatives that we can help us to reach or to provide you some technology. Mainly, I think that you are a farmer, and the most important technology that you need is photovoltaic driven pumps, and that is something that we can do. Also, we have been talking about doing something similar in Tanzania. So don't you worry about that.
Question was clear. Uganda, being a tropical country, pearl of Africa, of course, has a massive carbon sequestration potential. Is there room for collaboration, Vanessa?
I'm not sure. We have never worked in Uganda until now, but I know there are methodologies for offset carbon in the kind of forest you are working at. And there are new methodologies too on agroforestry, so that small farmers can benefit, but you may need an entity to help you to make the project. But I know projects in tropical forests in Central America regarding agroforestry, that farmers are benefiting of that. So you can find some information on the international standards, like Verra or Gold standard. They have information on that.
If I may make a proposal, I suggest that we organize an online workshop on how to transfer that knowledge, that very deep knowledge, to East Africa, and we invite a couple of the organizations we know in East Africa, and we do that probably, let's say, March, April next year. Is that okay? Because the first quarter is pretty packed, and I will be coming to East Africa, and maybe we can identify a joint approach, and consequently later a project. Okay, is there enough time for one more question? Yes, one more question, and then I have a final one. Not the case? You don't have to? Okay. What I wanted to know, and I mentioned, it's an ideal constellation that we have 3 people with deep experience on water and water ecosystems and their very important role for climate change mitigation, but also for biodiversity and the stability of our spaceship Earth depends very much on biodiversity. And I'm convinced that 150 species going extinct per day, we don't really know what we're doing, and we're destabilizing a very complex system. What I wanted to know is, having a representative from the private sector, from a large global company, from an academic background that is very well connected here in Latin America, and from a civil society organization with a experience of decades and also being linked to many other organizations. What do you think during the next 10 years, what would be required if you were close to Christmas, if you have one wish to improve and optimize your work from your perspective to make water ecosystems an even more relevant, or to save them, to put it bluntly, over the next years? What would you think is the most important aspect from your specific perspective? You want to go first?
Okay. It is a tough question. It is also tough to answer that in English, but I will try. I think that my wish, it could be that the technology can reduce the cost of to get that technology. You know that, for example, I don't know, 10 years ago, to get a solar panel was really very expensive. Now it is much more affordable. And my wish is that in the next 10 years, I think that the technology, at least in my my business that are pumps, that we can reduce the cost of providing this kind of products, and so it can be much more accessible to get for much more efficient technology for farmers, for wastewater treatment plants, and so on and so on. So we are going to reduce the energy consumption, and of course we are going to have much more sustainable applications. That is my wish.
Thank you, Facundo. And Hector, you used a metaphoric expression that I also use quite often. I always say the tropical forests are the lungs of our planet and the wetlands are the kidneys. So how can we keep the kidneys healthy?
Okay. Well, my wish it will not be about kidneys, but I think that something that is very, very difficult for people is to learn how to work together. That is very, very difficult. And for people that do science, even it's very difficult to work between us, between scientists. So if I have a wish, why don't we all scientists work together? That will be a very good wish. In that way, Latin American people don't say we don't have the machines to measure carbon, or, for example, that stable isotopes I show you, that is measured in France or Australia, but in Peru we don't have the machines. But it is possible to do it because we work together. So why don't we all work together and do beautiful things? And also, I would really like to wish that we all believe in science. Sometimes I hear that what science people do isn't important, but it's not true. It is important. We do all those things that you need, and we need you to use that information, as we need the knowledge of the people in all places. We need each other. So it's mostly one or two wishes, but that will be my perspective.
Thank you very much, Hector. Let the scientists work together. They already do, but even more intensively. And let the goddamn politicians listen to the scientists. That would be my wish. Civil society, very important, because the civil society also has a profound knowledge of how to put the scientific knowledge into concrete action. And some civil society organizations are also reminding the decision makers, the politicians, that they have to do their job. So what is your wish?
Yeah, my letter to the three kings, magic kings that will come soon to Spain. Well, it will be that we in Fundación Global Nature would like to be like a kind of, how do you say in English, a tool to bring the knowledge of the scientific groups into the field. I mean, we work taking the solutions from the laboratory to the field, as we are trying to do in the Live Wetlands for Climate. And we like to make many demonstrative projects. We are doing demonstrative projects every time, but then we would like that policy and decision makers took the results of our projects and implement them. For instance, green filters. We began doing green filters in 2000. And like 23 years later, only a few entities keep doing that because governments don't like that. I mean, it's not a business for them. There is not a lot of money on those kind of solutions. But, well, the things are changing, and I don't know if you know that, for instance, nature-based solutions are now into the agreements in the climate change mitigations policy, and then in the last COP they decided that nature-based solutions will be into the mitigation policies. So maybe we have room to improve, but we have to work a lot and, of course, use the information of the scientific and the research part to be able to have the solutions for the future.
Thank you very much, the three of you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your contribution and for your answers to the questions. May our wishes come true. In 2 weeks' time, on Christmas Eve, Christmas evening, we will see. Thank you very much. A big round of applause. So we will head on with the second part of this session. You can stand up probably and stretch your legs a little bit, and you want to check your mobile now for 2 minutes or so, whether anything is urgent? We have the boats, yeah. In the meantime, get moving. Sorry, I missed the gifts. My fault. I don't blame it on the altitude.
Thank you very much.
May your Living Lakes boat always have water under the soil or the bottom. So we have 2 more presentations before we have a coffee break. And after the coffee break, don't miss that, because we will have the Lake Titicaca 16th Living Lakes Conference resolution. Marion mentioned that. On top of that, we will have the Best Conservation Practice Award and the closing ceremony after the coffee break. Before the coffee break, we will have 2 more presentations, and I will invite Thomas to the floor, and Julio Cesar Aranibar. Where is he, Julio? He was our interpreter. Probably he still is, so he's always busy. And he's the ICI, International Climate Initiative, LLBCP counterpart here in Peru. So a very relevant focal point for us, our local partner. I will be brief, but over lunch we had a nice discussion at my table about, let's call it the Living Lakes spin-off. So you can also call it the Living Lakes babies. There are a number of those already grown a little bit. We have Living Lakes Canada, we have this Living Lakes Latin America network, and we have like the jazz singer Ella, we have the European Living Lakes Association. And those structures, those organizations, legal entities with an own portfolio, but with a lot of things in common and the same heartbeat like our Living Lakes Global Network, are very important. They make the network stronger in terms of the different topic, the geographic outreach, but also access to funding in terms of their eligibility to certain funds in the country. So we want to have more of these. And we have a midwife, and the midwife is ICI, the International Climate Initiative Project, called LLBCP, that's the acronym or the abbreviation, Living Lakes Biodiversity and Climate Program. And we have, as Global Nature Fund, I'm talking too fast, I know, for the interpreter that's hell, if somebody's, I try to be slower. Okay, we as Global Nature Fund, we have been waiting, that was really our Christmas wish 10 years ago, and it took us 3.5 years to submit the application and get this project approved. Now we have it, the money is not yet on the account, but we kickstarted a lot of action, even without money. And Thomas is coordinating this project, and he will give us, you, insight into the structure of the project, but most of all into the action and the vision and the, you can say, the mission of this activity, and how we will want to involve all of you. Thomas, do you want to go first, or that's okay, yeah? Like it's in the program.
Okay, thank you very much, Udo. You can start the presentation, thank you. Yeah, as Udo already said, it was a long journey to get here actually, to start the project during that conference today. As Udo said, we already started working without money in August, and thank you very much to all of those who did that, who already started activities. Very soon, I hope we can forward the money. Next slide, please. Achso, ich kann ja selber hier. Yeah, maybe the project in numbers. We started in August. We have 5 years, roughly 9 million budget, roughly grant of 8 million from the German Ministry of Environment and Conservation, and so an own contribution. The budget for implementation on site is over 7 million, so very few money will stay with us. The by far largest part will go to our partner organizations, and those are placed in 10 countries all around the world. In total, we have 13 project partners, and during the project running time, 105 employees will be involved in the project, and I will later come to some other figures. Some of those employees are here today, and I would very much like the LLBCP team to stand up. David, Alena, and Rebecca. You will be with us the next couple of years, and I would also for the different activities Global Nature Fund is going to take out. And of course, I would also very much like to ask the partner organizations, so Ajanta, David, Jackie, Spotting, to stand up just to show who else is in the room and who else is partner of the project. We managed to get several here. Papa, you also must stand up. And Amy, I don't know where you are. And Felipe? Great. So, great you're here. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, our partners from Cambodia and Sri Lanka could not come due to, many travel problems actually. The location of our partners around the world, not going into detail, but it's really a global program with a global outreach we want to achieve. I already mentioned we are proud to be the coordinating organization of that project, and our implementing partners stretch from the Philippines in the east, in the far east, to Peru, where we are right now. And it's going to be really a very beautiful project. And the outreach, this is very important, it's going to be the whole Living Lakes network. Of course, this is what we want to achieve, to involve the whole network into this project. The project impact, so what does the project, shall the project pay in, or will the project pay in on the larger scale, is the conservation and restoration of lakes and wetlands, and the protection of related biodiversity shall be improved in the long term. No estoy seguro si escuchan traducción ahora las personas. No se escucha. Bien, entonces vamos a traducir un poco. Hablamos... ¿Perdón? Ya, lo sabía. Por eso pregunto. Por eso. Bueno, hemos visto las personas que se levantaron, esos son los socios del proyecto, y somos como Global Nature Fund muy orgullosos, bueno, que tenemos un equipo tan grande que va a trabajar los próximos 5 años con nosotros. Han visto los números que hemos enseñado, tenemos como casi 9 millones de euros para la implementación, y la gran mayor parte de este dinero va a ir a los países de implementación. Más que 7 millones. Y bueno, el impacto que queremos crear es la conservación y restauración de lagos y humedales y la protección de la biodiversidad que vive en estos ecosistemas para mejorar la situación a largo plazo. Luego, lo que el proyecto debería lograr es la implementación de prácticas y estrategias para una gestión sostenible de lagos y humedales, y la buena documentación, lo que hablamos también antes, para el mainstreaming, no conozco una buena palabra para eso en español ni en alemán, con las comunidades locales y las organizaciones en los 10 países de implementación y también fuera. So all the English people might have read the outcomes, so I will skip that. We have 5 working packages actually, and it's very much about capacitation, and this capacitation will go very much around what we call front-runner initiatives, and I will show a little bit about what these capacitation and front-runner initiatives are going to be about. Capacitation will be to a larger extent with those who use lakes and wetlands, so fisher and farmer communities. They will participate in workshops, field trips, in seminars, and all means you can do to capacitate people. Out of those, our partners will select people who can be community leaders in the future, which will be guided and trained particularly or especially with certain means. And then, of course, it comes to the lake managers, so those who have responsibility today for the lake and wetland management. Also, they will be trained with workshops and field trips, and to improve the capacities. We have heard a lot about capacity building during our conferences. This is actually what we want to do here. Bueno, la mayor parte del proyecto va a tratar el tema de capacitación de las personas que usan los lagos y humedales, que son los pescadores, que son los agricultores que viven en la zona. Y bueno, escuchamos mucho el tema de capacitación durante la conferencia, durante los últimos dos días, y entonces esto es algo que vamos a hacer durante el proyecto también. De aquellos que participan, de aquellos pescadores y agricultores que participan en estos entrenamientos y workshops, vamos a selectar, o los socios van a selectar personas particulares para líderes, para formar líderes para el futuro y, bueno, para mejorar la situación a largo plazo. También otro grupo meta son los que hoy día gestionan ya los lagos y humedales para entrenar también, para intercambiar también, para mejorar la gestión de los humedales. Como antes había explicado en inglés que estas capacitaciones se van a formar con Frontrunner Initiatives y estos son proyectos específicos, implementaciones en el campo. Todos los socios han elegido uno, dos, tres implementaciones concretas, proyectos concretos que van a implementar en su país, en su lugar donde trabajan, para entender cuáles son las soluciones mejores de mejorar la situación de los lagos y humedales. Y vamos a hacer 11 de aquellos Frontrunner Initiatives y luego en la segunda fase del proyecto vamos a replicar estas implementaciones en 10 zonas más. Yeah, you will have read this. It's very important to see, and the larger part also of the budgets will go into this practical implementation measures where the capacitation it will be around. We have kind of 5 topics, and you please read in English. Tenemos como 5 temas de esos Frontrunner Initiatives, de esas implementaciones prácticas, que es una agricultura amigable con la biodiversidad, es un buen manejo de las cuencas, son negocios también amigables con la biodiversidad y modelos para ingresos alternativos, ¿no? De pesca y agricultura, también el manejo de especies invasoras y luego también el trabajo, la mano arriba, trabajo para mejorar las políticas y las estrategias para los lagos y humedales. Y solo para enseñar algunos ejemplos, trata de mejora de agricultura en Colombia y implementación del Biodiversity Action Tool. Trata de zonas de amortiguación en México y de algo como un sistema Man and Biosphere. Y trata esto es lo que hemos visto ayer y Julio va a hablar de eso también luego. I'm going to skip this because you were able to read. Maybe, and the frontrunners in Africa, those were the frontrunners in Latin America. It's very much about reforestation in the catchment areas like in South Africa. It's about agroforestry, solar irrigation and traditional agriculture. In Rwanda, Jackie has already explained a bit in the morning about the work Arcos is doing anyway. And then in Malawi, we will start a very strong emphasis in fisher and farmer schools, so capacitation, small-scale agriculture, and some other aspects which are attached to these aspects. En África vamos a trabajar el tema de mucho el tema de reforestación y de sostenibilidad en la agricultura y también en Malawi especialmente también acuacultura, ¿se dice? Sí, acuacultura, pero no acuacultura grande, sino de forma pequeña, ¿no? Para artesanal. Y en la Asia es el tema, en Camboya y en las Filipinas tenemos el tema de, perdón, me equivoqué. También el tema de ingresos alternativos a la pesca y a la agricultura. Hablamos de turismo, hablamos de Biodiversity Business, que es una forma de hacer dinero, de ganar dinero amigable con la biodiversidad. Hablamos mucho también de reforestar manglares y mejorar la implementación también de las leyes existentes. Esto también un tema que escuchamos ya hoy. Y el manejo de especies invasoras. Y finalmente en el sureste de Asia, en Camboya y en las Filipinas, otra vez el tema de turismo, homestay tourism, turismo sostenible con pequeñas entidades, y luego Nature-Based Solutions en las Filipinas van a crear un filtro verde, ecoturismo y agroforestry, y en Camboya va a tratar mucho de la pesca sostenible. Pues, well, you have read this in English. Is this okay, or should I elaborate on this? The different topics, you have seen this with the lights here, with the different signs. And this is what we are going to do in Asia, in South Asia and Southeast Asia. So we are going to gather a lot of insights and a lot of... It's okay? Good. Yeah, and then the third important outcome is with empowerment of the young generation of lake and wetland managers. This is something we really want to do, and well, we've heard this also in the last 2 days, and our idea is to really get to a shared vision of young people we want to involve in the project in the next 5-year times. And shared vision means to form kind of a shared spirit also among the young Living Lakes partners, among the young Living Lakers for effective conservation and sustainable use. And there's 3 working packages. We will have a trainee program. Each of our partners can do a trainee program with up to 10 trainees in their countries, young lake managers, and out of those we want to form kind of an alumni network, which we do not want to be restricted to our partner countries, but we want to involve more young people from other Living Lakes partners and also outside the Living Lakes network to this alumni. And then we want to establish what we call a Living Lakes Academy, so that people who participate in the activities of our project can also benefit in a sense that they will receive kind of a certification diploma or something like that. Este proyecto también trabaja mucho el tema de la juventud, ¿no? del futuro, del trabajo en lagos y humedales. Tendremos como tres actividades aquí. Un programa de entrenamiento específico donde jóvenes que empiezan en la carrera de gestión de humedales pueden en los 3 países participar en un entrenamiento especial. Luego una red de estos jóvenes que trabajan juntos y forman una estrategia más bien para el futuro, y donde queremos también involucrar más personas, no solamente de las 10 organizaciones dentro del proyecto, sino también el Red de Lagos Vivos y fuera de eso. Y luego también tenemos la idea de formar una academia de lagos vivos para dar un valor añadido a personas que participan en las actividades, que pueden recibir una certificación, un diploma, algo parecido. Bueno, y luego, y eso voy a cortar un poco, es el mainstreaming de gestión de lagos y humedales, la mejora de políticas y planes de manejo al nivel local, regional y nacional. Y bueno, hay una serie de actividades, ya escuchamos mucho de las citizen science, ciencias... gracias. De las ciencias ciudadanas, hablamos hablamos también de comunicación, hablamos de la mejora de políticas y luego, bueno, mucho de comunicación al nivel global que vamos a hacer. Y bueno, por eso estamos aquí también, mejor la cooperación entre todas las entidades que trabajan con el tema, better international exchange, mejor intercambio al nivel global para formar alianzas al nivel global. Bueno, y aquí también hay una serie de actividades eventos internacionales, ya estamos. Hemos logrado ya un indicador casi. Una plataforma que vamos a desarrollar donde Marion hoy habló también del tema cómo vamos a intercambiar todos los resultados de esa conferencia, pero también de todos los proyectos que estáis haciendo vosotros. Entonces, y por favor, mandarnos sus informaciones. Vamos a encontrar una forma de presentarlo en la plataforma livinglakes.org, no mañana, pero hasta verano quizás. ¿Qué dices tú, Amanda? Mañana no. ¿Verano? Ya. Y eso, trabajar mejor juntos. You have read this already. One important thing is we will develop a Living Lakes exchange platform. So all of those who work on lakes and wetlands, we've heard so many good results today and so many brochures, so many platforms also on the internet who have been developed or who are in development. We really want to gather all this information on the livinglakes.org website. As an exchange platform for all wetlanders in the world. And please send us this information. We will not be able to realize this by tomorrow, but maybe by summer. Yeah, well, I skip this because we are short in time, and this is what we are aiming for. Thank you. Bueno, y ahora Julio os va a presentar las actividades que van a implementar aquí en el lago Titicaca. Y bueno, un placer tenerte aquí. Muchas gracias otra vez para la traducción de toda la mañana y ahora un esfuerzo muy grande. Porque no creo que eres intérprete, ¿no? Para nada. Okay, so now we have Julio here with us. I again thanked him for a translation this in the morning. Yeah, and he will present us the activities who will be carried out in Lake Titicaca.
Muchas gracias, Tomás. Muchas gracias, Udo. Realmente es para mí un honor el poder saludarlos, el poder estar en esta red. Y quisiera empezar por decir que realmente esta ha sido una de las experiencias más enriquecedoras de las que he sido parte. Creo que no puedo poner en palabras todo lo que he aprendido en tan solo estos 3 días, solo conversando con todos ustedes, compartiendo en cada uno de los breaks y desde atrás apoyando en la conferencia. Así que es una experiencia que la voy a llevar por el resto de mi formación y de la aplicación que vamos a realizar como institución también. Ahora, esta presentación la voy a realizar en español, para poder presentar las actividades que vamos a realizar a través del proyecto Living Lakes aquí en Perú. Y por favor le pediría a Tomás que después podamos hacer unas conclusiones en inglés. Para empezar, ya hemos hablado muchísimo sobre el lago Titicaca durante todos estos días, así que no hay mucho más que yo pueda añadir sobre esta temática, solamente estos pequeños datos que quiero poner en su atención. El lago Titicaca en realidad es un espejo de agua que tiene más de 7.500 kilómetros cuadrados, es realmente enorme. Pero el sistema hídrico del que es parte es un sistema cerrado que tiene más de 144.000 kilómetros cuadrados de extensión. Engloba 3 países en realidad, Perú, Bolivia y una parte muy pequeña de Chile. Y en su desarrollo tiene varios ríos que son transfronterizos, 14 en total que son ríos binacionales. También tiene otros 2 lagos mayores en la zona sur del sistema, que es el lago Ururu y Popó, que pueden ver en el mapa que está a su izquierda. Entonces, desde el Titicaca, para que todo eso se convierta en un sistema, fluye un río hacia el sur que alimenta estos otros 2 lagos. Este río fluye por alrededor de 300 kilómetros de extensión. Entonces, estamos en un sistema hídrico que es realmente enorme, que presenta varios desafíos solamente desde su territorialidad. En la parte derecha pueden ver una representación, un mapa de todas las unidades hidrográficas que drenan sus aguas hacia el lago Titicaca, que va a ser nuestro territorio de acción. El proyecto, si bien está centrado en el territorio peruano, esa ha sido parte de la aplicación que hemos hecho hacia Living Lakes para poder conseguir el financiamiento. La LT, por su aspecto binacional, por supuesto que puede trabajar también en el territorio boliviano para poder implementar las acciones y lograr este equilibrio, porque en realidad el lago en sí administrativamente y políticamente tiene una frontera entre 2 países, pero naturalmente los espejos de agua no los tienen. y la gestión tiene que seguir esa línea de desarrollo. Bien, sobre la regulación hídrica del lago, solamente para conocer algunos aspectos de lo que vamos a trabajar, que en realidad es la gestión de recursos hídricos, lo único que quiero llamar a su atención es que el lago en sí tiene varios afluentes, todos los mayores fluyen en territorio peruano. El río Ramis es el principal, que le aporta al lago casi 76 metros cúbicos por segundo de promedio de forma anual, es un aporte bastante importante. Sin embargo, la pérdida mayor del espejo de agua por ser tan masivo también es debido a la evaporación. Generalmente los usos alrededor del lago están mayormente concentrados en agricultura y también en pesquería. En el mapa de la derecha ustedes pueden ver la oferta hídrica que tenemos en este sistema, que es también bastante extenso, que va desde el norte con una oferta de más de 900 milímetros por año de precipitación, pero puede disminuir en el sur casi hasta los 200 milímetros. Es decir, tenemos un clima bastante árido en toda esta cuenca. Y eso tiene un efecto sobre la disponibilidad de recursos hídricos que es muy marcado. Uno, si piensa en un sistema hídrico que tiene 3 grandes lagos, que tiene el lago Titicaca, podría pensar que la oferta de recursos hídricos es bastante extensa, que tenemos agua de sobra, pero en realidad esto no es así. La oferta, como ustedes pueden ver en este mapa, es bastante moderada, y en las zonas como el altiplano boliviano, donde el agua es tan escasa, en realidad tenemos que hacer un trabajo aún más amplio, aún más definido sobre la gestión, porque tenemos muy poca agua que gestionar. Entonces, en la cuenca del lago Titicaca, ya lo habíamos visto, solamente quiero traer esto para poder recordar algunos conceptos del día martes. Tenemos varios problemas, algunos los cito en la parte de la derecha, pero en las imágenes ustedes pueden observar algunas imágenes de archivo que tenemos de los trabajos que hacemos en el LT. En la parte superior se encuentra la bahía interior de Puno, que estuvo afectada y está afectada durante muchos años por la eutrofización. En la parte inferior izquierda ustedes pueden ver una fotografía de los desagües que se tienen de aguas residuales de los municipios que están alrededor del lago. Esta fotografía ha sido tomada por un dron en la localidad de Copacabana, una de las más grandes que se tiene en el lado boliviano del lago. Y también tenemos descargas por actividades industriales como la minera. Esa imagen corresponde al drenaje ácido de mina que recorre los ríos que están en el sector de la mina Matilde, en el sector de Chaguaya, en el sector boliviano. Y entonces tenemos un territorio realmente amplio, con recursos hídricos moderados, que tiene una infinidad de problemas. ¿Y cómo los gestionamos? En realidad la LT tiene varias acciones básicas, acciones que se repiten todos los años para poder contribuir al conocimiento científico que necesitamos para poder gestionar el sistema hídrico. Algunas de ellas las presento en esta lámina, que tienen que ver sobre todo con la calidad y cantidad de agua, el monitoreo de biomasa, el inventario de fuentes de contaminación, estudios científicos sobre el mismo lago, como es la batimetría del lago, que se ha actualizado recién el año pasado. Realizamos también planes de manejo de recursos naturales, como los totorales, la totora, etcétera. También hacemos algunos diagnósticos binacionales sobre temas de interés particular, como lo había mencionado, el tema pesquero y acuícola. Y también manejamos todas las obras de control hidráulico que se realizan en este sistema por los gobiernos de Bolivia y de Perú, como institución binacional. Entonces, en todo este amplio espectro en el que trabajamos, vamos a insertar la estrategia del proyecto IKI, Living Lakes, para poder reforzar las áreas en las que todavía nos ha faltado acción en esos últimos años. ¿Y esas cuáles van a ser? Creo que una de las principales ventajas que tiene este proyecto es que está muy centrado en el fortalecimiento de capacidades. Eso es algo muy importante para nosotros porque, sobre todo en el contexto en el que trabajamos, tanto en Bolivia como Perú, no existen muchas fuentes de financiamiento que estén apuntando a este tema en particular. Generalmente para los gobiernos la intervención tiene que ser siempre en obras de irrigación, obras de tratamiento de aguas residuales, las que queramos nombrar, pero el fortalecimiento de capacidades no es algo que esté en la agenda de desarrollo nacional. Entonces, este es un tema central que nosotros vamos a abordar, el desarrollo de capacidades, pero ¿a qué grupo meta? ¿A qué target group? Vamos a irnos por los pescadores. ¿Y esto por qué? Porque de acuerdo a los instrumentos de planificación que como institución hemos generado, se ha determinado que en los últimos 10 años se ha perdido alrededor del 80% de la biomasa íctica del lago. Las especies ícticas nativas están en peligro de extinción. Entonces tenemos que fortalecer el trabajo sobre esto con urgencia. Y dentro de ese fortalecimiento de capacidades, ¿qué es lo que vamos a desarrollar? Primero se van a hacer talleres y capacitaciones para pescadores en temas de reproducción de especies ícticas nativas a partir de técnicas que son tradicionales, conocidas ya aquí en el lago, pero también otras innovadoras que vamos a ir diseminando. También se van a hacer talleres de sensibilización sobre prácticas de pesca, periodos de veda y protección de especies que están en peligro de extinción. También, por supuesto, la actividad acuícola representa un impacto sobre el medio ambiente. Tenemos que sensibilizar a los pescadores sobre cómo mitigar este impacto y también promover la capacitación de gestores jóvenes, sobre todo para la implementación de técnicas sostenibles en el mantenimiento de los recursos hidrobiológicos que tiene el lago. Por último, se realizarán capacitaciones especializadas para gestores jóvenes con el involucramiento y transferencia de conocimiento de otras instituciones que ya están trabajando sobre el lago, que tienen larga tradición y que tienen todo el conocimiento científico que las instituciones privadas, que los organismos de sociedad civil requieren para gestionar los recursos. También Tomás lo había mencionado muy bien, una parte importante del proyecto es implementar iniciativas innovadoras para la gestión del medio ambiente. ¿Cuál va a ser la que nosotros vamos a escoger? Por supuesto va a ser una que está relacionada con las descargas de agua residual hacia el cuerpo del lago Titicaca, que es uno de los problemas más comunes y más importantes que tenemos. Alrededor del lago, si bien tenemos ciudades que son directamente relacionadas con el cuerpo de agua, como la que estamos ahora, que es Puno, también tenemos otras muy importantes en Bolivia que tienen la descarga no tan directa hacia el lago, pero que la contaminan igual, como la ciudad del Alto, que tiene más de 1 millón de habitantes y sus aguas residuales llegan hasta el lago Titicaca. Pero no solamente tenemos ciudades de esas envergaduras alrededor del sistema hídrico, sino también muchos otros municipios pequeños en los cuales es muy difícil poder gestionar el dinero para el tratamiento de aguas residuales. Entonces, en uno de estos municipios pequeños es que vamos a implementar un filtro verde para poder monitorear cómo la implementación de ese tipo de medida puede ayudar a la mitigación de la contaminación por aguas residuales que se vierten a los cuerpos de agua, que como les digo en el lago Titicaca lamentablemente es una figura muy común. Por supuesto que en esta iniciativa innovadora vamos a hacer un trabajo importante de monitoreo para poder sistematizar esta experiencia y a través de ello hacer estudios de caso para que puedan ser replicados. Y la ventaja que tiene el LT es que al trabajar en un territorio tan grande, tan extenso, esas réplicas se pueden hacer incluso dentro de nuestra misma cuenca, porque es un sistema hídrico, como les digo, que tiene problemas comunes a lo largo del territorio muy extenso. También trabajaremos en otro componente que es el empoderamiento de líderes. Vamos a llevar adelante durante estos 5 años que dura el proyecto un proceso de selección de líderes jóvenes, idealmente menores a 30 años, que tengan relación directa sobre la actividad pesquera en el lago Titicaca. Y obviamente vamos a tener ciertos criterios de selección para estas personas, pero sobre todo va a influir mucho la experiencia que tengan en la práctica y también las perspectivas de desarrollo, porque se requiere capacitar a gente que esté directamente relacionada con los actores locales para que puedan implementar nuevas técnicas que nos lleven a un mantenimiento de los recursos hidrobiológicos. También vamos a ejecutar periodos de pasantía que se van a realizar para estos gestores jóvenes en instituciones que son especializadas en el manejo de recursos hidrobiológicos aquí en el lago Titicaca y que son aliados del LT en el trabajo. Ahí tenemos varias opciones que podrían ser el IMARPE, el PELT, etcétera. Eso es algo que vamos a promover también en estos 5 años de ejecución. Finalmente, el LT tiene una característica muy especial que representa a 2 países a través de sus cancillerías. Esto nos ha involucrado como institución pública en este proyecto. Entonces, vamos a hacer uso de esa característica que tenemos para poder tratar de hacer un lobby y afectar la política pública de nuestros países. ¿Pero para qué? Para que tomen atención sobre los recursos hidrobiológicos del lago Titicaca que están en pleno decaimiento y que requieren acción inmediata y se implementen las políticas públicas que son necesarias para poderlos preservar. Finalmente, vamos a poner a disposición también una plataforma para fomentar la réplica de datos, la réplica de resultados de todas las acciones que vamos a llevar adelante. Y esto porque en un territorio tan extenso como el lago Titicaca, ustedes entenderán que tenemos más de 60 municipios que están alrededor del lago. Tenemos más de 120 asociaciones pesqueras que están trabajando en este momento solo en el territorio peruano. Entonces es obvio que no vamos a poder llegar a todos los actores en un periodo de tiempo muy corto. Entonces tenemos que ver mecanismos efectivos para que todos los resultados exitosos que vayamos a tener, toda la información que vamos a desarrollar, todos los estudios de caso que van a ser sistematizados, puedan seguir siendo diseminados en el tiempo. Se puedan llevar a los otros lagos también que tienen sistemas, se puedan llevar también a otros territorios en el lago Titicaca, y para eso es que vamos a tener esta plataforma de trabajo. Con esto concluyo con esta presentación. Muchas gracias por su atención y pasamos con la siguiente etapa.
Thank you very much, Julio.
Solamente decirles que este proyecto que muy acertadamente Living Lay lo está apoyando, agradecemos, va a constituir la base técnica, social y política, porque como se ha dicho en la presentación, no lo vamos a poder hacer solos. Vamos a enfrentar el tema de la depredación de la pesca, que tiene que ver con una política binacional que falta construir y articular. Ya se dijo en la presentación. El tema, y para aquí hay un tema importante que se va a manejar, y creo que el concepto fundamental es la gestión multinivel. Necesitamos articular pescadores, educación, sensibilización, ciencia. La ciencia es importante, la ciencia científica y la social, porque de lo contrario vamos a seguir en lo mismo. Yo agradezco mucho este enfoque, agradezco a Living Lay, que este va a ser un proyecto que va a contribuir a sentar una base binacional para cambiar una historia de depredación y de contaminación. Solamente eso, Tomás, y gracias.
Okay, to summarize really very briefly, some things we heard again, which Juan José explained already on Tuesday, and many things we also learned yesterday on the excursion. Yeah, it's very much about agriculture and fishery here. It's very much about water scarcity at Lake Titicaca. You showed the figures of rainfall we have here, which varies strongly, and in a tropical land anyway, it's not much rain which is falling here. The huge impact on the lake due to mining and wastewater, which is just going into the lake. In the past, and also in the future, I suppose, ALT will focus on scientific work, so on monitoring on the scientific basis, which is very important, of course. And ICI offers the opportunity to form kind of a political, social... Base Politica Social I? Okay. So political, societal, and also scientific basis to carry the work into the future. The project itself, mainly Julio explained in more detail and much better Spanish what they will implement in the framework of the project. The important target group will be fishing societies. It's about reproduction of fish in the water to improve the populations. We have heard a very interesting presentation about that on Tuesday already. Selection work very much with young people. The Frontrunner initiative will be a floating green filter. Also this, we were shown yesterday already how this could look like, very interesting and also exciting, because we never had this. We built many green filters in many countries, but floating, never, no. And ALT will also develop an own exchange platform, which we will tie together, of course. And the reason why they will do an own exchange platform is it's a huge thing, Lake Constance Funny also, but Lake Titicaca. Here it's 70 communities who live here and 70 communities who must learn to somehow work together to improve the situation at the lake, to implement, and this is why this platform should have to exchange effective mechanisms which have been learned and developed during the project running time, and all those case studies which will be produced should be shared here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody has been very concise and sticking to the time. in the afternoon session, but we're running a little bit behind schedule because of the morning session. But we do 2 quick questions. So are there any questions? If not, okay, there is a question over there. Where's the second microphone? No, we'll take this one. So, either in English or in Spanish, name, country, and very quick question. Thank you.
Bien, damas y caballeros, tengan ustedes muy buenas tardes. Agradecer por este evento que está realizando en Puno. Nos sentimos muy halagados a todos los asistentes a este importante reunión en Perú. Todas las nacionalidades de todos los países que han venido y también a todos los hermanos de la hermana República de Bolivia. Creo que el lago Titicaca es una de las cartas de representación que nosotros tenemos acá en el departamento de Perú, en la región altiplánica. Solamente mi pregunta es, nuestras autoridades, ¿qué medidas están tomando en la bahía del lago Titicaca? Porque Puno, generalmente la parte a las orillas, casi 8 kilómetros, casi totalmente contaminados. Y el segundo punto, los pobladores, los pobladores de la cultura milenaria, los uros, ¿qué medida está tomándose? Porque en el río Willy, totalmente poblado por estos pobladores, ahora que están construyendo muchos hoteles, ¿no?, flotantes. Y realmente, totalmente, ¿qué medidas están tomando para estos pobladores de uros?
Bueno, muchas gracias por la consulta. En realidad, sobre la primera parte de la pregunta, sobre las medidas que se están tomando en la bahía interior de Puno, en realidad el trabajo sobre esta bahía es bastante extenso. Nosotros como ELT en el último año hemos promovido y hemos propuesto varias alternativas de solución que tienen que ver con tecnología innovadora, que lo han podido ver el día martes durante la presentación que han hecho los colegas de DLPR de México. Esa es la tecnología que nosotros tenemos propuesta, el trabajo está hecho en el proyecto y estamos justamente en la búsqueda de financiamiento para poderlo implementar. Sobre la segunda pregunta, por supuesto. Okay.
Bueno, disculpa que sea, bueno, la pregunta es importante. Yo quiero informarle a través suyo qué es lo que está haciendo la ALT, porque este es un tema de crucial importancia. Nosotros como ALT, conjuntamente con la Municipalidad de Puno, se hizo un proyecto de inversión que actualmente cuenta con el Código de Inversión Único, que cuesta $3.6 millones, equivalente más o menos a 15. Se ha hecho toda la gestión con el apoyo del Ministerio del Ambiente, a Economía, con los congresistas. Sin embargo, debo decir con mucho respeto que en el presupuesto de la República de 2023 no ha sido incluido. Este es un tema que realmente debe ser tomado en cuenta por todas las autoridades, la sociedad civil organizada, porque creemos que si no se toma esta decisión, esto seguiremos hablando en mucho tiempo. Solamente para su información, señor, y espero que usted sea el vocero de esta propuesta de la autoridad Lago Titicaca. Gracias.
Thank you. Very short summary in English, probably the question and the answer.
Había todavía una segunda parte, ¿no?, que era sobre eso de las presiones urbanas. So in the inner bay of Puno, of course, we are working. Of course, we have new proposals to decontaminate the inner bay. And one of them, you saw it on Tuesday with the presentation of DLPR from Mexico. It's a new system that provides more oxygen to the water in order to decontaminate the water. This is still, we are still looking for investors, public or private, because the cost of the project is almost $3 million. So it's a little bit much higher than our annual budget. And we need to concur with another stakeholders to finance it. Y sobre la segunda parte de la pregunta, en realidad las presiones urbanas que hay sobre el lago, es algo que es relativamente nuevo y es un problema, pero que también se están abordando sobre distintos tipos de instituciones. Nosotros, esta es muy buena pregunta, porque quiero informar también a partir de esa plataforma que la gestión del lago Titicaca, como es una gestión binacional, siempre se hace a través de proyectos concurrentes, acciones concurrentes, y para este sistema sí que hay un plan de desarrollo integral que se denomina Plan Director Global Binacional, y hay también otros instrumentos que han implementado los gobiernos que son planes de acción estratégica, que por supuesto que todos estos temas están siendo tomados en cuenta ahí. En todas estas líneas se trabaja. Generalmente para todos estos problemas también se tienen soluciones. Este congreso es una clara muestra de ello. Un montón de soluciones que hemos visto desde el martes y el día de hoy que se pueden implementar, pero ¿qué es lo que falta? Generalmente es voluntad política para financiar esas soluciones. Y eso es lo que nosotros como actores de gestión en los lagos es lo que tenemos que implementar. Gracias.
I'm awfully sorry, but we're running out of time, so I have to finish it here. I would ask you to direct your questions bilaterally, directly to Thomas and to Julio and Juan Jose. Thank you very much for your presentations, the insight into the IKI project, and in particular the activities here in Peru. We are looking forward to that collaboration, and mucha suerte and good luck for the future here. So then we will have a very fast coffee break, so an infusion, so to say. We have 15 minutes break. Once again, I'm forgetting about the gifts. So after the gifts, we will have a coffee break, but while you're doing that, I continue speaking. So we will reconvene in 15 minutes time. Nos encontramos todos juntos aquí en 15 minutos. ¿Eso es correcto? Where's the photographer? Photographer, please, one last photo. Okay, thank you. Enjoy your coffee break, 15 minutes precisely. We will ring a bell then.
No lo vean, porque son del diablo. Pero aquí estoy, hermanos míos. Siguiente. No le atino al puto bote. No te preocupes.
está chungo la experiencia.
Thank you for taking a seat. Welcome back. Last session of today. I think I have been told we will start with a short 3-minute video. No? Play.
Sistemas, a la fecha no se ha logrado reducir la degradación y destrucción de los humedales y lagos. Los gobiernos deben garantizar la plena implementación de las leyes ambientales y establecer las sanciones correspondientes por su incumplimiento. Según el principio de quien contamina paga, los responsables del daño ambiental deben asumir las consecuencias establecidas en la ley. Se necesitan marcos institucionales y financieros que promuevan la restauración de los humedales, incluyendo programas de financiamiento de proyectos de restauración, apoyando específicamente los proyectos de iniciativas ciudadanas y organizaciones ambientales. Las administraciones regionales con responsabilidades en la gestión de los lagos deberán establecer estructuras para involucrar a los diferentes actores y motivar proyectos de restauración, colaboración público-privada. También las empresas en las cuencas y o con relación fuerte con el agua deberían contribuir financieramente y participar en las iniciativas de restauración. Se requiere igualmente un Fondo Mundial del Agua que canalice recursos globales para reducir las brechas de los ODS, así como asegurar la protección de los lagos y humedales. La acción vinculante y coordinada debe comenzar en el seno de las Naciones Unidas a través de una Organización Mundial del Agua que unifique el trabajo de las agencias del sistema de Naciones Unidas, así como de las agencias de cooperación, de manera que armonice las demandas sociales y ambientales globales.
Se necesitan planes de acción vinculantes y con base científica como marco y orientación para los proyectos y otras iniciativas de restauración de lagos. Las riberas y las cuencas del lago deberían ser incluidos en la consideración de los planes de gestión de lagos. Estos hábitats son fundamentales para la viabilidad de los ecosistemas lacustres. puestos que son la interfaz entre el propio lago y sus usuarios, se deben tomar una atención especial en la planificación y ejecución en caso de estas zonas. También es necesario un sistema de monitoreo adecuado y transparente para comprobar si se han alcanzado los objetivos de la recuperación, protección y gestión de un lago. Los resultados del monitoreo deberían ser analizados y evaluados por científicos independientes y las conclusiones y recomendaciones deberían ser considerados en el plan de acción y gestión. Los informes del monitoreo tienen que ser públicos y la administración debería informar a todos los representantes del grupo de interés.
Un elemento fundamental de un plan de restauración debe ser de acuerdo con las normas aceptables de calidad y cantidad del agua, aceptable para todos los usuarios del agua y garantizar la prosperidad de la biodiversidad. El uso de plantas de tratamiento de aguas residuales municipales debe ser obligatorio y su eficiencia monitoreada. Hay que promover y apoyar la implementación de filtros verdes como soluciones naturales de bajo coste de construcción y de mantenimiento para pequeños asentamientos. Cada vez se detectan más microplásticos en los lagos de todo el mundo. Esta nueva forma de contaminación solo puede filtrarse con plantas de tratamiento de aguas residuales técnicamente avanzadas. Pedimos a las autoridades locales que tomen medidas para reducir el uso de plásticos y prohibir los artículos de plástico de un solo uso. La prevención de la contaminación y de la captación insostenible de agua es más importante que las soluciones tecnológicas de reparación. Normalmente las autoridades locales son responsables del tratamiento de las aguas residuales. Ellos necesitan la creación de capacidad y los recursos financieros con el fin de operar y mantener las plantas de tratamiento de forma adecuada. También los hogares necesitan reconocer la importancia del tratamiento de aguas residuales y estar dispuestos a pagar por este servicio tan importante. Ello requiere de la implementación de estrategias orientadas a la educación y concienciación de la población. Una gran amenaza para la calidad y la cantidad adecuada del agua de un lago es la agricultura intensiva con prácticas insostenibles. Los gobiernos deberían implementar programas de ayuda para apoyar a los pequeños agricultores de certificarse con estándares de sostenibilidad ambiciosos. El objetivo debería ser, como mínimo, doblar la superficie de agricultura orgánica alrededor de lagos hasta el 2030. Por otro lado, es necesario incentivar la transformación de la base técnica de los sistemas de riego, buscando maximizar su eficiencia en la captación, transporte y aplicación del agua para los cultivos.
La mayoría de los lagos y humedales ya están muy contaminados. Es urgente apoyar económicamente la aplicación de métodos y tecnologías para mejorar la calidad del agua, además de apoyar el desarrollo futuro de estas técnicas. El estado de conservación del humedal define su capacidad de mitigación del cambio climático, encontrando su máxima capacidad de retención de carbono cuando están en buen estado de conservación, pudiendo, por contrario, llegar incluso a ser emisores netos de gases de efectos invernaderos en caso de estar degradados. En casi todos los lagos, las poblaciones de peces han disminuido con pérdidas significativas de especies endémicas. La consiguiente pérdida de los medios de subsistencia para los pescadores del lago se ha convertido en la mayor parte de la norma. Los pescadores suelen ser los miembros más pobres de la comunidad y la formación de asociaciones y el fortalecimiento de la pesca para que sean incluidos activamente en la gestión del lago debería ser promovida.
Es imprescindible la educación y la información de la población local sobre la importancia del lago como ecosistema con sus imprescindibles servicios ecosistémicos. Los gobiernos nacionales, regionales y locales no deberían conformarse con un nivel escaso de conciencia de la población, que está aprendiendo a convivir con el desastre de la contaminación. Se necesita la participación de las comunidades en las actividades y proyectos de restauración de lagos, así como involucrar sus perspectivas y conocimientos. La presencia o ausencia de apoyo público a un proyecto de restauración puede ser la diferencia entre los resultados positivos y el fracaso. Por eso es muy importante fomentar y apoyar la cooperación entre organizaciones públicas y privadas. El monitoreo participativo de lagos y humedales debe ser implementado y fortalecido como una herramienta inclusiva de identificación y priorización de problemas ambientales a través del involucramiento de la sociedad civil en el levantamiento y análisis de datos de calidad y cantidad de agua de los cuerpos de agua, para que de esta manera la toma de decisiones tome en cuenta la visión de los pobladores de la cuenca y se enriquezca las perspectivas sobre un tema que es altamente complejo.
Los participantes en la conferencia expresan su gratitud sin reservas a la Autoridad Binacional Autónoma del Lago Titicaca, Perú-Bolivia, y al Global Nature Fund por acoger la conferencia. El lugar de celebración a orillas del lago Titicaca y las excursiones fueron fundamentales para facilitar el alto nivel de debate entre los participantes y se refuerzan las urgencias de las acciones necesarias para proteger y restaurar los humedales y lagos en todo el mundo. Puno, 8 de diciembre 2022, firman los participantes y miembros de la Red Internacional de Living Lakes y los demás participantes de la Conferencia Internacional Living Lakes.
Gracias.
Okay, now the English version. The title is Living Lakes International Conference Declaration of Lake Titicaca 2022, subtitled The Conservation and Restoration of the World's Wetlands and Lakes Needs Urgent Global and Local Action. The first three parts are referring to figures by Ramsar and the UNESCO. We don't read that. And I start with at the same point where the Spanish version started. The 158 participants of the 16th International Living Lakes Conference held in the city of Puno on the shores of Lake Titicaca call on political decision makers, the international community, civil society, academia, and the private sector to take urgent action to protect and restore the world's lakes and wetlands. In response to the conference themes, participants noted that, and now we have the 15 bullet points of the declaration, and I read the first part that is underlined always a little bit slower, and then I speed up. There is an urgent need to strengthen existing legal frameworks to effectively restore and protect lakes and wetlands. While the vast majority of countries have ratified the International Convention on Biological Diversity, the Ramsar Convention, and passed laws for the protection of ecosystems, the degradation and destruction of lakes and wetlands has not stopped. Governments must ensure the full implementation of environmental laws and establish the corresponding sanctions for non-compliance. According to the polluter pays principle, those responsible for environmental damage must assume the consequences established in the law. Point 2, strong institutional and financial frameworks are urgently needed to promote wetland restoration, including funding for restoration projects, citizen initiatives, and environmental organizations. Regional administrations with responsibilities for lake management should establish structures to involve different stakeholders and encourage public-private partnership restoration projects. Furthermore, companies in the basin and/or with a strong relationship with water should contribute financially and participate in the restoration initiatives. 3, a World Water Fund is also needed to channel global resources to close the SDG gaps, as well as to ensure the protection of lakes and wetlands. Binding and coordinated action must start at the heart of the United Nations through a World Water Organization that unifies the work of the agencies of the UN system as well as the cooperation agencies in a way that harmonizes global social and environmental demands. 4, binding science-based action plans are needed as a framework and guidance for projects and other lake restoration initiatives. Lake shores and watersheds should be included in the consideration of lake management plans. These habitats are critical for the viability of lake ecosystems. Since they are the interface between the lake itself and its users, special attention should be taken in planning and implementation in the case of these areas. 5, an adequate and transparent monitoring system is also necessary to check whether the objectives of recovery, protection, and management of a lake have been achieved. Monitoring results should be analyzed and evaluated by independent scientists, and the conclusion and recommendations should be considered in action and/or management plans. The monitoring report have to be public, and the management should inform all stakeholder representatives. 6, a key element of a restoration plan must be to agree acceptable standards of water quality and quantity, acceptable to all water users, and ensure that biodiversity thrives. The use of municipal water treatment plants should be mandatory, and their efficiency monitored. The implementation of green filters as natural solutions with low construction and maintenance costs for small settlements should be promoted and supported. 7, most lakes and wetlands are already heavily polluted. There is an urgent need to financially support the implementation of methods and technologies to improve water quality, as well as to support the further development of these techniques. 8, more and more microplastic is being detected in lakes all over the world. This new form of pollution can only be filtered out by technically advanced sewage treatment plants. We call on municipalities to take measures to reduce the use of plastic and to ban single-use plastic articles. 9, preventing pollution and unsustainable water abstraction is more important than technological solutions for remediation. Normally, local authorities are responsible for wastewater treatment. They need capacity building and financial resources in order to operate and maintain treatment plants properly. Households also need to recognize the importance of wastewater treatment and be willing to pay for this important service. This requires the implementation of strategies aimed at educating and raising awareness among the population. 10, a major threat to the quality and quantity of water in lake is intensive agriculture with unsustainable practices. Government should implement aid programs to support small farmers to become certified with ambitious sustainability standards. The goal should be to at least double the area of organic agriculture around the lake by 2030. On the other hand, it is necessary to incentivize the transformation of the technical basis of irrigation systems, seeking to maximize their efficiency in the capture, transport, and application of water for crops. The conservation status of lakes and wetlands informs their capacity to mitigate climate change. They are at their maximum carbon sequestration capacity when they are in a good state of conservation, and they can become net emitters of greenhouse gases if they are degraded. 12. In almost all lakes, fish stocks have declined and there have been significant losses of endemic species. This has a significant negative impact on the livelihood of lake fishers, which is particularly significant given that fishers are often the poorest members of the community. The formation of fisher association is encouraged to improve fishery management and enable active involvement in lake management. 13, education and information campaigns aimed at improving local community and understanding about the importance of lake and wetland ecosystems and associated ecosystem services is essential. National, regional, and local governments should not be satisfied with low levels of awareness within lake and wetland communities, who need to live with the impact of lake and wetland pollution and destruction. 14. Community participation in lake restoration activities and projects is needed, as well as involving their perspectives and knowledge. The presence or absence of public support for a restoration project can be the difference between positive results and failure. It is therefore very important to encourage and support serious cooperation between public and private organizations. Last 15. Participatory monitoring of lakes and wetlands should be implemented and strengthened as an inclusive tool for the identification and prioritization of environmental problems. This must be achieved through the involvement of civil society in the collection and analysis of data on water quality and quantity of water bodies, so that decision-making takes into account the vision of the lake and wetland communities and enriches the perspectives on a highly complex issue. All conference participants express their unreserved gratitude to the Binational Autonomous Authority of Lake Titicaca in Peru and Bolivia and the Global Nature Fund for hosting the conference. The venue on the shores of Lake Titicaca and the excursions were instrumental in facilitating the high level of discussion among participants and reinforced the urgency of the actions needed to protect and restore wetlands and lakes worldwide. Puno, the 8th of December 2022, signed by the members of the International Living Lakes Network and other conference participants.
Sí. No, falta el award. Falta el premio. Sí, sí. Sí, bien. Primero, queremos solicitar vuestra firma a esta declaratoria. We would like to have your assignment of the resolution, and we will sign Juan por parte de ALT y yo por parte como presidenta de Living Lakes, now ALT, and myself in representation of the Living Lakes Network, we will sign, and later on we will pass around the paper so that you can also hopefully sign this declaration. And afterwards there will be a small last word, farewell word of the Minister of...
El canciller de la hermana República de Bolivia, tenemos un mensaje. Así es que, por favor, equipo, el mensaje del canciller de Bolivia.
Gracias. Muy buenas tardes a todas y todos a la distancia. La verdad, la esperanza de poder acompañarles de forma presencial en esta 16ª conferencia de los lagos vivos. Lastimosamente, diversos inconvenientes de último momento han hecho que no pueda estar ahí compartiendo con todos y todas. Para el Estado Plurinacional de Bolivia, este evento que se ha venido desarrollando tiene una gran importancia. El lago Titicaca, que ahora forma parte de la red de lagos vivos, para nosotros no es solamente un espacio con agua y vegetación, es parte de nuestra historia, es parte de nuestra cultura, es parte de nuestra vida como pueblos. La historia relata que en una de las islas del lago Titicaca se origina lo que fue el gobierno de todas estas tierras antes de la colonia, el imperio incaico. Ahí emergió el origen del pueblo inca, de Mamaoglu y Manco Cápac. Pero es esa historia, pero también es vida. Nuestros pueblos han vivido en gran medida en ese sector de la pesca, han aprendido a hacer islas artificiales, han aprendido a construirse balsas de totora, ¿no? Y toda esa vida que ha transcurrido por siglos y siglos, hoy está amenazada. Y hemos sido nosotros mismos, los seres humanos, la que hemos expuesto la vida de este nuestro lago Titicaca. Lo hemos hecho de forma silenciosa, a través de la contaminación de nuestras ciudades. Hemos sido nosotros, como humanidad, los que hemos definido un calentamiento global que hoy amenaza no solamente al Titicaca, sino a varios otros espacios de vida. Hemos sido nosotros que en nuestra vorágine hemos ido ejerciendo una presión terrible sobre nuestro lago Titicaca, con situaciones como la sobrepesca, y le hemos llevado a momentos muy duros, como en 2015, cuando se ha dado un brote de algas, ¿ya?, que ha significado la muerte de multitud de peces y de vida allá. Pero el tiempo nos ha hecho ver también en el espejo de la historia, en el espejo de nuestra cultura, a nosotros mismos. Y es que los pueblos originarios no son de la cultura individualista que cree que el ser humano es el centro de todo. Nuestras culturas andinas se piensan como parte de la naturaleza, como parte de la Pachamama misma, ¿no? Las culturas andinas no tienen una visión antropocentrista. Y creo que en estos últimos años hemos venido construyendo y reconstituyendo esta nuestra cultura, como una forma también de luchar para revitalizar el lago. Hace décadas, entre Perú y Bolivia, coincidimos en la importancia que tenía el lago Titicaca para nosotros. Creamos la autoridad del lago Titicaca, una autoridad binacional, que es una experiencia muy importante para nosotros, que ha realizado mucho trabajo, pero el trabajo de esta autoridad resulta limitada, insuficiente, porque el embate es de muchos, ¿no? Y ahora tenemos la comprensión de que poder revitalizar nuestro lago, salvar nuestro lago, es un compromiso de todos y de todas. Y debemos concurrir, ahora lo tenemos claro, debe concurrir la autoridad nacional en este caso, pero también las autoridades locales, los municipios, las autoridades que denominamos aquí en Bolivia como subnacionales, ¿ya?, de las gobernaciones. Pero también deben concurrir las mismas comunidades de personas, los hombres y mujeres, los niños y niñas, todos. Solo el esfuerzo común, con una visión que supere, ¿ya?, la visión antropocentrista, nos va a ayudar a conservar lo que queda de nuestro lago, a revitalizarlo en lo que podamos. Y a estas alturas, ¿ya?, esta situación es tan grave que podemos calificarla de vida o muerte. Por eso estamos comprometidos en esta acción y por eso estamos contentos de poder pertenecer a esta red de lagos vivos. En estos minutos he querido compartir de forma muy comprimida este tránsito, esta experiencia que nosotros estamos viviendo. Y de alguna manera el drama que también enfrentamos. Porque este lago no solamente es fuente de pesca, es parte de nuestra historia, de nuestra cultura. Y lo que podemos hacer, o lo que no podemos hacer más bien, es seguir haciendo lo que veníamos haciendo, que es extinguirle. Lo hemos comprendido. Por eso hemos participado de esta conferencia, lo han hecho allá de forma presencial nuestros compañeros y compañeras acá de Cancillería, como militantes de la conservación y preservación del lago Titicaca acá en Bolivia, pero de multitud de otros lagos en nuestro planeta. Y para Bolivia, esto es parte de su política de Estado, parte central de su política de Estado. Y estoy acá para expresarles y compartir ese compromiso con ustedes. Y también convocarnos a todos a no bajar los brazos, porque es ahora cuando se torna más complicado y difícil el escenario por contaminaciones, por conflagraciones bélicas, por calentamiento global, en que debemos redoblar los esfuerzos. Todos juntos podemos.
Now we are coming to the last point of today's agenda, which is the award, which we give since 16 years to organizations and to people, to persons which are really doing an outstanding job for the conservation of lakes and wetlands. And it was ALT who selected the award, the people and the organization, the person and the organization who made really an outstanding work and is doing an outstanding work for the conservation of Lake Titicaca. And I give over the word to Juan José to present the first winner of the Award of Living Lakes.
Bueno, nosotros en el marco de la conferencia y en coordinación con la presidenta de Global Nature Fund, elegimos a dos reconocimientos, uno institucional y uno personal. Así es que a mí me toca entregarle el reconocimiento al doctor Lázaro, quien fue elegido. Así es que, por favor, doctor Lázaro, quisiera que nos acompañe aquí. Y quisiera contarles por qué. El doctor Lázaro tiene nacionalidad francesa, un científico que ha dedicado muchos años de su vida a trabajar por la ciencia en favor del lago Titicaca. Recuerdo cuando yo era estudiante haber leído sus publicaciones y que ayudaron contribuyeron con mi formación profesional como biólogo. Además es un profesional que tiene muchas publicaciones en el mundo, todo relacionado a los lagos. En ese mérito me complace entregarle un reconocimiento en nombre de Living Lakes, a quien realmente estamos profundamente agradecidos. Doctor Lázaro.
And we have a small more gift for you, Jose, because you are looking to the present always. And this is maybe also something where you can better look into the future. So I hope it will be of utility for you.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Realmente voy a decir unas palabras rápido. Nunca imaginé estar aquí 40 años después o más de 40 años después, porque he tenido en la vida una oportunidad de llegar aquí y me han confiado el desafío de caracterizar el lago menor en una época que no había datos, nada sobre ese lago. Los únicos datos que existían eran sobre la parte norte del lago mayor, hecho por Richardson y colaboradores de la Universidad de California, con la UNAPUNO, y en el lago menor no había información, nada. Y en esa época yo tenía 24 años, era mi primer trabajo y la verdad no sabía por dónde comenzar porque, como ustedes pueden imaginar, en esa época, 79, 80, la tecnología era casi cero bala. La única cosa tecnológica que teníamos era un termómetro y todo había que hacer a mano. Hoy en día es muy diferente, como lo voy a poder mostrar. Entonces, cuando dejé esa información aquí, el lago menor se ha tornado ahora, esa información del lago menor de esa época se ha tornado como la línea base que deberíamos tratar de reconquistar con la restauración del lago. En esa época, el agua era tan transparente, voy a poner eso en un momentito. El lago era tan transparente que los equipos de química no podían detectar nutrientes, era como agua destilada. La transparencia era como en la fosa de Chua, 20 metros de transparencia, hoy en día es 10. ¿Qué les puedo decir? La clorofila, la cantidad de algas que había eran 3 microgramas. Teníamos como idea, yo salía cada 18 días, me van a preguntar por qué. Porque 18 días era el paso del satélite Landsat 2. Estamos en Landsat 8. Entonces pensábamos que ya en esa época, que con los datos de campo más el satélite podíamos mapear el lago, la clorofila, todo eso, y no fue posible porque la concentración era tan baja que él no detectaba. Eso ha cambiado mucho y nunca imaginé en mi vida, o esperaba ese momento de poder volver un día al lago Titicaca para trabajar, mas no imaginé que hubiera sido posible y cuando tuve esa oportunidad no he dicho no. mas he encontrado un lago que no podía reconocer. Realmente hay poca gente en la vida que puede ver un lago en un estado bueno y encontrarlo después de una generación en esas condiciones. Entonces, lo que les quiero decir, sobre todo a los jóvenes, es que ustedes tienen que tener entusiasmo, amor por la naturaleza y con voluntad, con empeño, va a conseguir hacer las cosas que quiere hacer. Demora mucho más tiempo que uno imagina que todo va a llegar rápido, no, todo es en términos de décadas, mas al final se consigue. Entonces no se desesperan, la situación actual es bastante crítica, mas si ustedes ponen el empeño, el entusiasmo, no se necesita siempre muchos conocimientos, ideas y visión es bastante importante. Ustedes van a conseguir y van a contribuir. Eso sería mi mensaje y para conseguir, porque yo estoy en el final de mi carrera, hago un apelo para que jóvenes y menos jóvenes se apasionan por el lago Titicaca y vengan a encontrarnos aquí para seguir trabajando para su restauración y para mejorar el conocimiento. Porque el conocimiento de esa época, el libro que todos conocen de Dejoux y Iltis, eran datos de los años 70, 80, no son más válidos. ¿Okay? Tenemos que trabajar. Gracias. Sí, en inglés. Tengo que decir todo eso en inglés.
Muchas gracias. Hilfst ihm gerade? Ja. Okay. El otro galardón del premio de Living Lakes es la Reserva Nacional del Titicaca. Trabaja para la conservación del lago desde hace 44 años. La reserva tiene una superficie de 36.000 hectáreas, incluyendo los sectores Ramis y Puno en el noreste del lago Titicaca. Las tareas de la reserva son la vigilancia y el control con unos 110 patrullas al año, más el acompañamiento de vigilantes comunitarios, el monitoreo ambiental de aves y de la totora enmarcados en un plan de monitoreo, el ordenamiento y la promoción del turismo, entre ellos apoyando el desarrollo turístico de 5 islas flotantes, involucrar a los actores en la gestión de la Reserva Nacional del Titicaca a través de coordinación del Comité de Gestión y de los 16 comités de conservación y la educación ambiental con casi 100 sesiones educativas en 12 instituciones educativas secundarias del ámbito rural. Y todo eso un esfuerzo desde hace 24 años.
Gracias, Marión. Así es que invitamos al ingeniero Víctor Hugo Apaza, jefe de la Reserva Nacional de Titicaca. Así es que Víctor Hugo, aparte de ser un jefe, es nuestro amigo. Muchas gracias. Marión, bien.
Muy amable, muchísimas gracias.
Querido Víctor Hugo, por favor. El micro es tuyo.
Muchas gracias. Estoy emocionado. y mucho más emocionado, creo, con mis compañeros de trabajo. Somos un equipo de 13 personas, somos muy pocos, 13 guardaparques que tratamos de hacer nuestro trabajo en una partecita del lago Titicaca, con la finalidad de hacer conservación y conservación de una muestra representativa de nuestro queridísimo lago. Creemos que es una buena forma de poder hacer conservación porque involucramos a la gente en este trabajo. Si nosotros somos 13, tenemos 70 guardaparques comunales, ¿no?, que nos ayudan a hacer el trabajo de conservación. Agradecidos a la ALT por su apoyo permanente, agradecidos a Lagos Vivos por considerarnos en este reconocimiento, y creemos que mis compañeros y yo nos vamos a sentir muy felices, y esto es una fortaleza para seguir contribuyendo a que nuestra biodiversidad y en especial de nuestro lago se siga conservando. Muchísimas gracias. Muchas gracias.
Yes, I was asked to say 2 sentences in English, and I start with the Reserva Nacional del Lago Titicaca. It's an a team of 13 persons, and additionally about 60 technicos and guardaparques, as rangers on local level, and they are doing an incredible job in environmental education, in controlling, in monitoring, and also in planification of the tourism in the national park. And Javier Lázaro he is one of the scientists which knows the park the lake very, very well, because he started very early when he was a young man to look at the lake, and he is one of the persons who saw the lake in a very good situation, and later he came back and now he saw the degradation of the lake. And he made a lot of science and studies, etc., which is also very useful for Lake Titicaca. And he is telling to you, especially to the youth and to the people which are not so young anymore, but very enthusiastic, that we need to change this situation, that we need to come back to a living lake, Titicaca, and he, of course, will support all this with his scientist knowledge. Thank you very much.
Bevor ihr jetzt eure Schlussworte macht, sollen wir unsere Teams hochholen?
Ja.
Sí, sí, puedo, doctora. Muchísimas gracias, doctora.
Gracias. Nos tomamos una cerveza. Sí, está bien. Sí. Ok, todavía no estamos terminando. Vamos a dar las gracias a los equipos.
No, sí, tengo algo para ti. Espera.
Ah, tienes algo para mí. Uy, pronto es Navidad. Eso.
Bueno, querida Marión, quisiéramos expresarte nuestro agradecimiento por esta presencia de todo que representas el Living Lake. Nosotros en la ALT expresamos nuestro cariño con este presente. Perú-Bolivia.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Pues así estaré muy bien abrigada y siempre recordándoos con mucho cariño. Muchas gracias. Bueno, before we finalize the Living Lakes Conference, we would like to thank you, first of all, to the audience, and we would like to thank to our teams of RLT and also of Global Nature Fund, because they did an incredible job. They did not only an incredible job the days of the conference, but also the 3 months or 6 months before start of the conference. So I think it's a very good example for working together over continents and over oceans and come to a very good results. And and come to a very good result. And yeah, it was really, you did a great job and you can be very proud. And you made also with this conference a big contribution to make a step towards the conservation and the restoration of Lake Titicaca and to all the lakes over the world.
Gracias, Mario. Bueno, yo no quisiera, acá estamos al cierre de la conferencia el día de hoy, y yo quisiera invitar a mi equipo de trabajo, por favor, equipo de trabajo, adelante. Julio, todo el equipo de trabajo, por favor, ALT.
And todo el equipo de GNF as well, please.
So I can say the names, huh? Shall we call them by name? So Alena Heyer, let's start with the girls. That's Alena Heyer. Katharina Gehrig, where is she? Katharina. Rebecca Mahler. This is Rebecca. David Marchetti and Thomas Schäfer.
Están bonitos.
I think that's the GNF team and now the ALT. Thank you.
Bueno, en verdad, por favor, equipo aquí, a ver, señorita Yomar, adelante, ingeniero Patricia, ingeniero Miranda, adelante, Gonzalo Candia, señora Silvia, la señora Verónica, Luis, el señor Montes de Oca, la doctora Fabiola Arnés, nuestro querido Gary, por favor, David, Marco, el ingeniero Mesa, Esteban, perdón. Bueno, queridos amigos, este es el equipo que ha trabajado arduamente para poder llevar adelante esta magnífica conferencia, la cual agradecemos de corazón. Aquí hay corazones peruanos, hay corazones bolivianos, españoles, alemanes, que representan a esta gran conferencia. Me siento honrado y feliz y espero que esta actividad tan importante haya sido al alcance de lo que ustedes esperaban. Les pido un fuerte aplauso a este magnífico y maravilloso equipo internacional. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Tomás. David. Sorry. Blanca. Alena. Gracias. Rebeca. Muchas gracias. Catarina, muchas gracias. José Manuel, muchas gracias. Tania, muchas gracias. Ingeniero Patricia, muchas gracias. Julio, muchas gracias. Señora Verónica, muchas gracias. Gracias, querido amigo. Luis, estoy emocionado. Y a veces cuando me emociono, a veces no me acuerdo los nombres, discúlpenme. Doctora Fabiola, muchas gracias. Lucho.
So, and finally, a very big round of applause for yourself. Thank you. And next year will be the 25th anniversary of Living Lakes, and we will have a celebration, I would say, on various places of this planet. We will keep you informed. Definitely we will have a big party in Germany, but we will organize some other events all over the world. So you're kindly and cordially invited to that. And of course to the next 17th Living Lakes Conference that at the very, very latest will take place in India, in West Bengal.
Viva el lago Titicaca y viva Living Lakes.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. You can come up on stage. We make a photo of us all. Come up. If you wish, if you want to be on the photo.